Okay, just take a second. Picture this.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that warm, kind of tropical breeze.
Mm.
Feels like really bright, colorful drinks.
Yeah.
And you definitely smell that jerk chicken pasta.
Oh, yeah. That's Bahama Breeze. Takes you right there. Orlando, 1996. That's when it started. An island escape, basically.
Exactly, an island escape. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. Darden Restaurants.
Yeah.
The huge company behind Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse.
Yeah, the giants.
Well, they've suddenly put Bahama Breeze in this really significant spotlight. They're actually talking about an exit.
An exit, wow.
Okay, and it just makes you think, right, what exactly made Darden decide this? So that's our mission today. We're going to unpack what's going on, why now, and what this whole strategic thing means.
For the brand itself, yeah, but also the bigger picture, casual dining.
Right, the whole industry. And, for you listening, what does it mean for you? So the immediate thing, the trigger, was this earnings call. Late June. Darden's CEO, Rick Cardenas, he laid it out pretty plainly. Bahama Breeze is, and I quote, no longer a strategic priority.
Oof. That's direct, not just corporate speak then.
Not at all. And it's had real consequences already. They've closed 15 locations.
15? Wow. How many does that leave?
Well, the numbers are a bit fuzzy, somewhere between 14 and maybe 28 still operating. It's a big cut, though, for a brand that's been around nearly 30 years in their portfolio.
Yeah, it is. And what's really interesting is putting this against, the backdrop of the whole casual dining scene right now.
It's pretty rough out there, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You've got inflation pushing costs up, labor's getting more expensive, and diners, well, people are just behaving differently, spending differently.
We're seeing casualties, too.
Definitely. I mean, look at Hooters filing for bankruptcy. Red Lobster closing stores left and right, TGI Fridays, Denny's. They're all feeling the pinch.
I saw Red Lobster near me just boarded up the other week. It really drives it home.
It does. It shows how much pressure these chains are under. It's a tough, tough environment.
Which, okay, that makes the Darden situation even more fascinating. Because they're actually doing great overall. They're kind of bucking that trend completely.
Right. That's the key point.
Yeah.
While Bahama Breeze is facing this uncertainty, Darden's main players are killing it.
Olive Garden. Their same-store sales, so existing restaurants, right, up 6.9%.
Which is huge.
Huge. And Longhorn Steakhouse also doing really well, up 6.7%.
Solid numbers. And that fed into a strong quarter for Darden overall, right? Like $3.27 billion in revenue for Q4.
Exactly. So Darden as a company isn't struggling, not at all. Which leads back to the question, why Bahama Breeze? Why this specific island concept with its unique vibe? Why is it the one being potentially cast adrift?
Yeah, and that's the crucial thing to understand. It wasn't necessarily that Bahama Breeze was failing badly. It definitely had its own niche, that whole Caribbean theme.
Right, it stood out.
It did, but its footprint was always pretty small. You said less than 30 restaurants, maybe.
Yeah, around that.
And critically, the return on investment, it just hasn't kept pace with Olive Garden or Longhorn, those bigger dominant brands.
So from Darden's viewpoint, it's less about a problem brand and more about focus.
Exactly. It's strategy. They're looking at where to put their capital, their resources to get the best long-term growth, the highest returns. It's like doubling down on what works best at scale.
A refocusing. Concentrating on that proven model, broad appeal, efficient operation.
Precisely. It's about maximizing value for shareholders, really.
Okay, so it's strategic. But what signal does that send? I mean, for any other niche concept inside a giant company like Darden, does this mean specialized chains are just less viable for the big players now?
Well, it's a pretty strong signal, I think. It suggests that unless your niche concept can get really big, like achieve massive scale and deliver massive returns, it starts to look like an inefficient use of capital for these huge corporations.
Like a drag on the overall numbers.
Potentially, yeah. Even if it's profitable on its own, Darden wants maximum bang for their buck, and resources put into slower growing brands could maybe be better used elsewhere in their view.
So it almost forces the survival of these unique brands onto smaller operators, people who might value the identity more than just the pure ROI.
That's often what happens. It might take a more passionate, maybe smaller group who really sees the potential in that specific Caribbean theme rather than just the spreadsheet numbers Darden is focused on.
Okay, so Bahama Breeze is no longer strategic. What happens next? What are the actual options Darden has for the brand and those remaining locations?
Well, there are basically three main paths, it seems.
Yeah.
One, they could sell the whole chain find a buyer.
2.
2, they could reposition the remaining units, maybe convert them into Olive Gardens or Longhorns, something they know works well and fits their core strategy.
Makes sense. And 3.
3, if selling or converting doesn't work out, they could just wind the brand down completely, close the rest.
Selling it seems like the best hope for the brand itself to survive, right? But you mentioned finding a buyer. How hard is that, really? For a niche concept, a giant like Darden is offloading.
Oh, it's incredibly challenging. Think about it. You need more than just money.
Right.
You need someone with a specific vision for that Caribbean theme. Someone willing to invest in a brand that's kind of been sidelined, and they have to believe they can make it grow in a way Darden decided it couldn't or wasn't worth the effort.
So you're not just buying restaurants, you're buying a turnaround project almost.
Exactly. You're buying a perceived problem that you think you can solve better. It often needs, like we said, someone smaller, maybe more personally invested in that unique identity, not just the bottom line that drives a huge company like Darden.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the people involved.
Right.
What does this mean for, someone listening who loves Bahama Breeze or someone who works there?
Right. Well, for the loyal customers, the fans of that jerk chicken pasta or those tropical cocktails.
That pasta is iconic. Seriously.
Yeah, it really is. You have to be prepared for changes. Your favorite dish might vanish from the menu, or worst case for a fan, your local spot could become an Italian place or a steakhouse instead.
Wow. Yeah, imagine going for your usual island fix and finding spaghetti. That's a shift.
It is. And for employees, well, at those 15 places that already closed, Darden did offer relocation or severance, which is good.
Okay.
But for folks working at the restaurants still open, their future really depends on what happens next. Does a buyer step in? Does Darden convert the store? It's got to be a period of real uncertainty for them.
Definitely. Bahama Breeze, it really did build something distinct. That whole identity was built around the Caribbean thing, the flavors, the atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. That island ambiance was the whole point. You felt like you were kind of escaping for a bit.
Yeah, sipping a drink there, you could almost imagine a beach somewhere. But now, with Darden, the corporate parent, focusing hard on its biggest earners.
Doubling down on Olive Garden and Longhorn.
Right, where the growth is strongest. It feels like that whole Bahama Breeze tropical dream. For customers, for employees, it's kind of hanging by a thread.
It really is. It's precarious.
So here's the final thought, maybe, for you listening. Will someone else, a new owner, come in and rescue Bahama Breeze? Keep that unique vibe alive, maybe even help it grow.
Or will Darden just quietly turn those spots into something, well, more mainstream? More Olive Gardens, more Longhorns, and Island Breeze just becomes a memory.
Yeah. And maybe think about what the fate of Bahama Breeze, whatever it turns out to be, tells us about casual dining overall. What kinds of places, what kinds of experiences are going to survive and thrive in this industry that's clearly changing so fast.
Something to chew on for sure.
Definitely something to mull over next time you're deciding where to go out for dinner.